Now, after we have established that tithing is a biblical concept, we have seen it from Genesis to Malachi and the New Testament, Matthew, Luke, and Hebrews. Now, we want to find out what is it for, or what was it for? What was the practice in the olden days? Now, the purpose of tithing is very important. If we understand the purpose of tithing, then it will help us to be able to know whether it's under the law or not under the law, under grace or not under grace. Now, let's look at Numbers chapter 18. The Bible says, "Behold, I have given the children of Levi all the tithes in Israel as an inheritance." So the first mention of it as the purpose is to be given to the Levites as their inheritance. Why? The Levites were the ones who were asked to work in the house of God. So they don't have to go and take a job. They have to just work in the house of God. So because they don't have anything, the tithe that has been given to God, then God said, I have given it to the Levites. Before that, when you bring the tithe to God, because there wasn't any established system, you burn it to the Lord. But now, as it develops, now there's an established system, the Levitical priesthood. They are there, the 12 tribes of Israel. One of them are supposed not to do anything, but to work in the house of God. And God establishes and say that the tithe that is mine, I have given it to the Levites as their inheritance. Now, as time goes on, tithing was developed. Now, if you look at the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 14, verse 28 to 29, it develops its basis or spreads its basis. I read Deuteronomy chapter 14, verse 28 and 29. It says here that, "And the end of every 3 years, you shall bring all the tithe of your produce in the same year and lay it up within your town. And the Levites, because he has no portion or inheritance with you, and the sojourners who are the strangers, and the fatherless, and the widows who are within your towns, shall come and eat of the field, that the Lord your God may bless you in all the works of your hand." So over here in Deuteronomy, talking about tithing, if you have any good Bible, the heading is tithing. He says that in every 3 years, now bring the tithing to the gates of your house or wherever you decide to put it, and then let the Levites, the widows, the fatherless, the strangers, and those who don't have, come and take of the tithe. So the basis of the tithe here has nothing to do with grace or salvation, has everything to do with supporting, number one, the Levitical priesthood, the widows, the needy. In other words, supporting the work of God, which in most countries we are called charity, because we support things within the community or we help those who don't have. So the basis of the tithing, over here, we have not seen anything to do with grace or the law of Moses or any other law in the scriptures. The basis is when you bring the tithe in every 3 years, spread it, give some to the Levites, the fatherless, the strangers, the widows. So the basis of tithing is supporting the work of God and also those who don't have. Now, we move on to see another extension of it, and we can see it from the book of Nehemiah chapter 10, verse 38 to 39. Nehemiah chapter 10, verse 38 to 39. And I read it in Nehemiah chapter 10, verse 38. "And the priest, the descendants of Aaron, shall be with the Levites when the Levites receive the tithe. And the Levites shall bring up a tenth of the tithe to the house of the Lord." So everybody has to pay it. Even the Levites who receive the tithe also have to pay their tithe. "They shall bring it to the house of God, to the rooms of the storehouse." Also underline to the rooms of the storehouse. Underline the house of God, because we will deal with the storehouse is not the house of God as was alleged. But over here it says, to the rooms of the storehouse. For the children of Israel and the children of Levi shall bring the offering of grain and of the new wine and of the oil to the storerooms where the articles of the sanctuary are stored. The sanctuary is the church. The storerooms are where the things are stored. So if somebody said the church is not the storehouse, probably I bet to differ. But if you continue to say, where the priests who minister and the gatekeepers and the singers, so that they will not neglect the house of God. So over here is clearly stated that let the priests take the tithe, let them also pay tithe, let the children of Israel bring them to the storehouse, so that the gatekeepers, now it includes the gatekeepers. There's no church that doesn't have security or gatekeepers. The gatekeepers are the ones who make sure the church is kept. If it's today, we will say either the security or the watchman or whoever. That is their portion. Then the singers, it introduced the singers. Now, earlier time, it was only God saying, give it to me, it's holy unto me, burn it. Now he says, give it to the Levites. Now, not only to the Levites, the gatekeepers. And he ends it with, and we will not neglect the house of our God. So the purpose of the tithing has nothing to do with grace or salvation, has everything to do with having enough in the house of God so that the gatekeepers and the singers and the Levites will not neglect the house of God.